The fluorescent lights of Romano's Italian restaurant cast their familiar harsh glow across the red-checkered tablecloths as Alex Thompson adjusted his black tie for what felt like the 1,000th time that evening. At 23 years old, he had been working as a waiter for nearly 5 years, ever since he graduated from high school and realized that his family's financial situation made college seem like an impossible dream. His calloused hands, stained with coffee and tomato sauce, moved with practiced efficiency as he balanced 3 plates of steaming pasta on his left arm while carrying a pitcher of ice water in his right hand. Marcus had never imagined that his life would take this particular trajectory. As a child growing up in the working-class neighborhood of East Cleveland, he had been the kid who always had his nose buried in books, the one who asked endless questions in class and stayed after school to help teachers organize their classrooms. His mother, Maria Rodriguez, a single parent who worked double shifts as a nurse's aide, had always encouraged his intellectual curiosity despite their limited resources. She would bring home medical journals from the hospital and watch with pride as Marcus pored over them, asking questions about anatomy and disease processes that impressed even her colleagues. However, when high school graduation approached, the harsh realities of their financial situation became impossible to ignore. Rose's income barely covered their basic living expenses, and the idea of taking on student loans that could amount to tens of thousands of dollars seemed overwhelming and risky. Marcus watched as many of his classmates prepared for college with excitement and anticipation, while he faced the prospect of entering the workforce immediately to help support his family and begin building some kind of future for himself. The restaurant job had started as a temporary solution, a way to earn money, while he figured out his next steps. Romano's was a family-owned establishment that had been serving the community for over 30 years, and the owner, Giuseppe Romano, had a reputation for treating his employees fairly and giving young people opportunities to learn valuable work skills. Marcus approached the job with the same dedication and attention to detail that he had brought to his studies, quickly earning the respect of his coworkers and the loyalty of regular customers who appreciated his friendly demeanor and efficient service. What Marcus hadn't anticipated was how easily temporary could become permanent when you were good at what you did, and when the immediate financial rewards made it tempting to postpone long-term plans. His tips were good, especially on weekends when the restaurant was busy with families celebrating special occasions and couples enjoying romantic dinners. He found himself settling into a routine that was comfortable and predictable, even if it wasn't particularly fulfilling intellectually. For the first 2 years after high school, Marcus told himself that he was just taking a break from education, earning money, and gaining life experience before eventually returning to school. He watched the news, read books during his breaks, and engaged in intellectual conversations with customers when the opportunity arose, but he could feel his academic skills growing rusty from disuse. The immediate demands of restaurant work, remembering orders, managing multiple tables, dealing with difficult customers, handling cash and credit card transactions, occupied most of his mental energy during his shifts. It was during his 3rd year at Romano's that Marcus experienced what he would later describe as his wake-up call. A regular customer, Dr. Patricia Williams, a professor of sociology at the local community college, had been coming to the restaurant every Friday evening for months. She always ordered the same thing, chicken parmigiana with a side salad and a glass of Chianti, and she always brought a stack of papers to grade while she ate. Marcus had served her many times and had noticed that she often struggled with particularly heavy academic texts and student papers that looked fascinating from his limited glimpse of them. One evening, as Marcus was refilling Dr. Williams' wine glass, he couldn't help but notice that she was reading an article about income inequality and social mobility. Unable to contain his curiosity, he commented on the topic, sharing some observations he had made about economic disparities based on his experiences serving customers from different socioeconomic backgrounds. Dr. Williams looked up, surprised by the depth and insight of his casual remarks, and what began as a brief exchange evolved into a lengthy conversation that lasted well beyond her usual dining time. Dr. Williams was impressed not only by Marcus's natural intelligence and analytical thinking, but also by his genuine curiosity about social issues and his ability to connect abstract concepts to real-world experiences. As their conversation continued over the following weeks, She learned about his educational background and his current situation, and she began to encourage him to consider returning to school. She explained that community colleges offered flexible scheduling options designed for working adults, and that there were financial aid programs specifically designed to help students from low-income backgrounds pursue higher education. Initially, Marcus was resistant to Dr. Williams' suggestions. He had become comfortable with his life at Romano's, and the idea of adding the stress and expense of college to his already busy schedule seemed overwhelming. He worried about his ability to compete academically with students who hadn't taken a 5-year break from education, and he feared that attempting college while working full-time might result in failure in both areas. Most importantly, he was concerned about the financial risk involved in reducing his work hours to accommodate class schedules, potentially jeopardizing the steady income that he and his mother had come to depend on. However, Dr. Williams was persistent in her encouragement, and she began to provide Marcus with specific information about educational opportunities and financial resources that might make college feasible. She brought him community college catalogs, information about federal financial aid programs, and success stories of other non-traditional students who had managed to balance work and education successfully. She also offered to serve as a mentor and reference, helping him navigate the application process and academic requirements. The turning point came when Dr. Williams invited Marcus to attend one of her evening sociology classes as a guest, just to see what the college experience might be like. Marcus was initially nervous about the prospect of sitting in a college classroom after so many years away from academic settings, but his curiosity eventually overcame his anxiety. The class discussion that evening focused on social stratification and the factors that influence economic mobility, topics that resonated deeply with Marcus's personal experiences and observations. As he listened to students and the professor discuss theories about class structure, educational access, and opportunity gaps, Marcus found himself mentally contributing to the conversation, analyzing the concepts through the lens of his own life and work experiences. When Dr. Williams called on him to share his perspective as someone who worked in the service industry, Marcus spoke eloquently about the dignity of working-class jobs, while also acknowledging the limitations they placed on long-term economic advancement. His comments sparked an engaging discussion that lasted well beyond the scheduled class time, and several students approached him afterward to continue the conversation. This classroom experience reignited Marcus's intellectual passion in a way that surprised and energized him. He realized how much he had missed the stimulation of academic discourse and the satisfaction of grappling with complex ideas and concepts. For the first time in years, he began to seriously consider the possibility of returning to school, not as an impossible dream, but as a challenging but achievable goal. That night, Marcus went home and had a long conversation with his mother about his educational aspirations and the potential challenges and benefits of pursuing college while continuing to work. Rosa had always regretted that financial circumstances had prevented her from completing her own education, and she was immediately supportive of Marcus's desire to return to school. Together, they developed a preliminary plan that would allow Marcus to begin taking classes part-time while continuing to work enough hours at Romano's to meet their financial obligations. The decision to return to school marked the beginning of what would become the most challenging and transformative period of Marcus's life. He had no idea how dramatically his daily routine, his relationships, and his understanding of himself and his capabilities would change over the next few years. What he did know was that he was ready to bet on himself and his ability to create a better future through education and hard work. The autumn morning, when Marcus walked through the doors of Cleveland Community College as an officially enrolled student, was both exhilarating and terrifying. He carried a worn backpack that his mother had purchased for him years earlier in high school, now repurposed for this new chapter of his life. Inside were the basics: notebooks, pens, a scientific calculator that Dr. Williams had given him as an encouragement gift, and his class schedule printed on a piece of paper that he had already memorized but continued to check nervously. The enrollment process had been more complicated than Marcus had anticipated. Despite Dr. Williams' guidance and the helpful staff at the college's Adult Learning Center, navigating financial aid applications, placement tests, and course registration had required multiple visits and considerable paperwork. Marcus had spent hours filling out forms that asked detailed questions about his family's financial situation, educational history, and career goals. The placement tests had been particularly anxiety-provoking, as he worried that his years away from academic work had left him unprepared for college-level coursework. To his relief and surprise, Marcus's placement test scores indicated that his academic skills had remained relatively strong despite his time away from formal education. His reading comprehension and writing abilities tested at college level, and his mathematics skills, while somewhat rusty, were adequate for most general education courses. The academic advisor who reviewed his results with him noted that his life experiences and work history would likely serve him well in college, providing practical contexts for theoretical concepts that many traditional students struggled to understand. Marcus had decided to begin with a relatively light course load of 9 credit hours, taking classes only on Tuesday and Thursday evenings and Saturday mornings to accommodate his work schedule at Romano's. His first semester courses included English composition, Introduction to Sociology. Dr. Williams had convinced him to take her class officially, and college mathematics. This schedule would allow him to continue working nearly full-time at the restaurant while testing his ability to balance employment and education. The first challenge Marcus encountered was simply the physical and mental adjustment to being a student again. After years of work routines that were largely repetitive and predictable, the intellectual demands of college coursework required a significant shift in how he used his mental energy. Reading assignments that might have taken him an hour in high school now required 2 or 3 hours as he worked to fully understand complex concepts and unfamiliar vocabulary. Taking notes during lectures required concentration and organizational skills that he had to consciously rebuild. More challenging than the academic work itself was learning to manage his time effectively between his job responsibilities and his educational commitments. Marcus's schedule at Romano's varied from week to week, depending on the restaurant's needs and other employees' availability, making it difficult to establish consistent study routines. He often found himself trying to complete reading assignments during brief breaks at work, balancing textbooks on the narrow shelf in the employee break room while scarfing down a quick meal between shifts. The physical exhaustion of working long hours on his feet, carrying heavy trays, and dealing with demanding customers made it difficult to maintain the energy and focus required for studying. There were evenings when Marcus would arrive home from a busy dinner shift and find himself struggling to stay awake while reading assigned chapters or working on writing assignments. He had to learn to use every available moment efficiently, studying during his commute on public transportation, reviewing notes while waiting for classes to begin, and working on assignments during slower periods at the restaurant when his manager would allow it. Financial pressure remained a constant concern, despite the financial aid Marcus received. While his grants and subsidized loans covered most of his tuition and fees, textbooks proved to be unexpectedly expensive, often costing several $100s per semester. Marcus learned to be creative about acquiring course materials, buying used books when possible, sharing textbooks with classmates, and utilizing the library's reserved copies when his budget was particularly tight. He also discovered that some professors were understanding about students' financial constraints and would provide alternative resources or allow students to use older editions of required texts. The social dynamics of being a non-traditional student presented another set of challenges that Marcus hadn't fully anticipated. Most of his classmates were recent high school graduates who were experiencing college as their first major life transition, while Marcus brought years of work experience and adult responsibilities to the classroom. This age and experience gap sometimes made it difficult for him to relate to his peers' concerns and perspectives, and he occasionally felt out of place during class discussions or group projects. However, Marcus soon discovered that his life experience was actually an asset in many academic contexts. When sociology discussions turned to topics like workplace dynamics, economic inequality, or social stratification, Marcus could contribute insights based on his first-hand observations and experiences. His writing assignments often drew on real-world examples from his work in the restaurant industry, providing concrete illustrations of abstract sociological concepts that impressed his professors and enhanced his understanding of course material. One of Marcus's most significant early academic challenges was his English composition class. taught by Professor Janet Morrison, a demanding instructor known for her high standards and detailed feedback. Marcus had always been a capable writer in high school, but he quickly discovered that college-level writing required more sophisticated analysis, stronger evidence, and more nuanced argumentation than he was accustomed to producing. His first essay, a personal narrative about his work experiences, received a grade of C+, along with extensive comments about organizational issues and the need for deeper reflection and analysis. Rather than becoming discouraged, Marcus used Professor Morrison's feedback as a learning opportunity, scheduling appointments during her office hours to discuss ways to improve his writing. Professor Morrison was impressed by his willingness to seek help and his dedication to improvement, and she became one of his most valuable mentors during his first semester. She helped him understand the differences between descriptive and analytical writing, taught him strategies for developing stronger thesis statements and supporting arguments, and provided guidance on academic writing conventions that were unfamiliar to him. The mathematics course presented different challenges, as Marcus discovered that his computational skills were reasonably strong, but that he had forgotten many algebraic concepts and problem-solving strategies. The instructor, Dr. Robert Chen, noticed Marcus's struggles early in the semester and recommended that he take advantage of the college's free tutoring center. Initially reluctant to admit that he needed additional help, Marcus eventually swallowed his pride and began attending regular tutoring sessions, where he worked with peer tutors who helped him review fundamental concepts and develop better study strategies for mathematical coursework. Dr. Williams' sociology class proved to be both the most engaging and most demanding of Marcus's first semester courses. As she had anticipated, Marcus's work experience provided valuable perspectives on many course topics, but she also challenged him to move beyond personal anecdotes to engage with sociological theory and research in more sophisticated ways. She pushed him to consider how his individual experiences fit into broader social patterns and to analyze social phenomena using the conceptual frameworks they were studying in class. One particularly memorable assignment required students to conduct a brief ethnographic study of a social setting with which they were familiar, analyzing the interactions and power dynamics they observed using sociological concepts from their readings. Marcus chose to study the restaurant where he worked, examining the relationships between servers, kitchen staff, management, and customers through the lens of social stratification and organizational behavior. His paper impressed Dr. Williams with its insightful analysis and its ability to connect personal observations to broader sociological principles. As Marcus progressed through his first semester, he began to develop more confidence in his academic abilities and more effective strategies for managing his dual roles as student and employee. He established better communication with his manager at Romano's, explaining his educational goals and requesting more predictable scheduling when possible. He created study schedules that maximized his limited free time and learned to use brief moments throughout his day more productively. Most importantly, Marcus began to see connections between his work experiences and his academic studies that enriched both aspects of his life. Concepts from his sociology class helped him understand workplace dynamics and customer interactions in new ways, while his mathematics skills proved useful in managing restaurant finances and calculating tips and sales figures. The critical thinking skills he was developing in college enhanced his problem-solving abilities at work, making him a more effective and valuable employee. By the end of his first semester, Marcus had earned grades of B+ in sociology, B in English composition, and C+ in mathematics, results that exceeded his own expectations and proved to himself that he could succeed academically while maintaining his work responsibilities. More importantly, he had rediscovered his love of learning and his intellectual curiosity, remembering why education had been so important to him in the first place. The positive feedback from his professors and his success in balancing work and school gave him the confidence to continue pursuing his educational goals with increased determination and optimism. The second semester brought new challenges and new opportunities as Marcus attempted to build upon his first semester success while taking on a slightly increased course load. Encouraged by his grades and growing confidence, he enrolled in 12 credit hours: Introduction to Psychology, American History, Intermediate Algebra, and a second English course focused on research writing. This schedule would push his time management skills to their limits, while providing the foundation courses he needed to eventually transfer to a 4-year university. Giuseppe Romano, the restaurant owner, had watched Marcus's educational journey with interest and admiration. As a first-generation Italian immigrant who had worked his way up from dishwasher to restaurant owner, Giuseppe understood the challenges and sacrifices involved in pursuing advancement while supporting oneself through physical labor. He had noticed improvements in Marcus's communication skills, problem-solving abilities, and leadership qualities that seemed to correlate with his college coursework, making him an even more valuable employee. Recognizing Marcus's potential and wanting to support his educational goals, Giuseppe offered him a slight promotion to shift supervisor, which came with a modest increase in hourly wages and more predictable scheduling. This new role involved training new servers, handling customer complaints, managing cash deposits, and coordinating with kitchen staff to ensure smooth service during busy periods. While the additional responsibilities required more mental energy, the improved pay and schedule flexibility were invaluable in helping Marcus balance his work and academic commitments. The psychology course, taught by Dr. Sarah Martinez, proved to be unexpectedly relevant to Marcus's work in the restaurant industry. As he learned about human behavior, motivation, and interpersonal dynamics, he began to apply psychological principles to his interactions with customers and coworkers. Understanding concepts like cognitive biases, emotional regulation, and group dynamics helped him become more effective at managing difficult situations, resolving conflicts, and creating positive experiences for restaurant guests. Dr. Martinez noticed Marcus's practical applications of course concepts and encouraged him to consider psychology as a potential major. She explained that psychology offered excellent preparation for careers in business, education, social services, and healthcare, fields that could provide both personal satisfaction and economic advancement. The idea of majoring in psychology hadn't occurred to Marcus initially, but as he delved deeper into the subject matter, he found himself increasingly fascinated by the scientific study of human behavior and its practical applications. The American History course presented Marcus with material that challenged some of his previous assumptions about social mobility and opportunity in the United States. Professor David Kim's lectures on economic history, labor movements, and social change provided historical context for many of the contemporary issues Marcus encountered in his daily life. Learning about the struggles of previous generations of working-class Americans to achieve economic advancement and educational access helped Marcus understand his own journey as part of a larger historical narrative. One of the most impactful assignments in the history course required students to interview an older family member or community member about their life experiences and connect their personal story to broader historical trends. Marcus interviewed his mother about her experiences as a young single parent in the 1980s and 1990s, learning for the first time about many of the sacrifices she had made to provide for him and the barriers she had faced in pursuing her own educational and career goals. This interview project deepened Marcus's appreciation for his mother's struggles and sacrifices, while also helping him understand how historical factors like economic recessions, changes in healthcare policy, and shifts in the job market had affected his family circumstances. The research required for the project introduced him to primary sources, historical databases, and analytical writing techniques that enhanced his research skills and historical thinking abilities. The intermediate algebra course continued to challenge Marcus mathematically, but his consistent attendance at tutoring sessions and his developing study skills helped him make steady progress. Dr. Chen recommended additional online resources and practice problems that Marcus could work on during breaks at the restaurant, making productive use of otherwise idle time. The logical thinking skills required for algebraic problem-solving proved transferable to other areas of his academic work, helping him approach complex problems in his other courses more systematically. The research writing course, taught by Professor Lisa Thompson, built upon the foundation Marcus had developed in his first English class, while introducing him to the conventions of academic research and documentation. Learning to locate credible sources, evaluate information critically, and integrate research into his own writing opened up new possibilities for engaging with complex topics in sophisticated ways. The final research project for the course allowed Marcus to explore the relationship between education and economic mobility, combining his personal interests with rigorous academic research. As Marcus progressed through his second semester, he began to develop a clear vision of his long-term educational and career goals. Conversations with his professors, career counselors at the college, and successful professionals he met through his work helped him understand the various paths available to college graduates and the specific steps required to achieve his aspirations. He started to see his community college experience not as an end in itself, but as preparation for transfer to a 4-year university, where he could pursue a bachelor's degree in psychology or a related field. The social aspects of college life remained challenging for Marcus due to his work schedule and age difference from traditional students, but he gradually formed friendships with other non-traditional students who were balancing similar responsibilities. A study group that formed in his psychology class included several working parents and career changers who understood the unique challenges of adult learners. These relationships provided both academic support and emotional encouragement during particularly stressful periods. Marcus also began to take advantage of campus resources and opportunities that he had initially overlooked due to time constraints. He attended occasional lectures by visiting speakers, participated in a psychology club that met during lunch hours, and utilized the career counseling services to explore potential transfer schools and career paths. Each of these activities broadened his understanding of higher education and helped him develop a more comprehensive college experience, despite his limited time on campus. The financial pressures of college continued to require careful management and creative solutions. Marcus learned to take advantage of free campus resources like computer labs, study spaces, and library materials to minimize additional expenses. He also discovered scholarship opportunities specifically designed for non-traditional students and working learners, applying for several small awards that helped offset textbook and transportation costs. One particularly valuable resource was the college's emergency fund, which provided small grants to students facing temporary financial crises that might otherwise force them to drop out. When Marcus's car required expensive repairs during the middle of the semester, threatening his ability to get to work and classes reliably, the emergency fund provided enough assistance to cover the repair costs without derailing his educational progress. By the end of his second semester, Marcus had maintained his strong academic performance while successfully adapting to increased course demands and new workplace responsibilities. His grades, A- in psychology, B+ in history, B in research writing, and B- in algebra, reflected not only his intellectual growth, but also his developing skills in time management, organization, and academic strategy. More importantly, Marcus had begun to see himself differently, recognizing that he possessed the intelligence, determination, and resilience necessary to achieve his educational goals. The positive feedback from professors, the respect of his coworkers, and his own sense of academic accomplishment had transformed his self-concept from someone who happened to be taking college classes to someone who was genuinely a college student with legitimate aspirations for continued educational and professional advancement. This shift in identity and confidence would prove crucial as Marcus prepared to face the even greater challenges that lay ahead in his educational journey. The foundation he had built during his first year of college, academic skills, time management abilities, support networks, and most importantly, belief in his own capabilities, would serve him well as he prepared to take the next steps toward achieving his long-term goals. By the beginning of his third semester, Marcus had established himself as one of the most dedicated and successful students in the community college's adult learning program. His consistent academic performance, combined with his mature approach to learning and his unique perspectives as a working student, had earned him recognition from faculty and administrators. Dr. Williams had nominated him for the college's Outstanding Non-Traditional Student Award, and several professors had encouraged him to consider opportunities for academic leadership and peer mentoring. Marcus decided to challenge himself further by taking 15 credit hours during his third semester, including his first honors-level course. His schedule included honors introduction to literature, statistics, general biology, and Spanish I. This increased academic load required even more sophisticated time management and forced him to become more strategic about how he approached his work responsibilities and study time. The honors literature course, taught by Professor Amanda Foster, introduced Marcus to a level of analytical thinking and critical discussion that surpassed anything he had encountered in his previous coursework. The class focused on contemporary American literature that explored themes of identity, class, and social mobility, topics that resonated deeply with Marcus's personal experiences. Reading authors like Tobias Wolff, Sandra Cisneros, and Sherman Alexie, Marcus found himself connecting with characters who struggled to navigate between different social worlds and who used education as a means of transformation. Professor Foster's teaching style emphasized student-led discussions and collaborative analysis, pushing students to develop their own interpretations while engaging respectfully with alternative viewpoints. Marcus initially felt intimidated by the sophisticated literary analysis produced by some of his younger classmates, many of whom had taken advanced placement literature courses in high school and were accustomed to discussing symbolism, narrative structure, and thematic development. However, Marcus soon discovered that his life experiences provided him with insights into character motivation and social dynamics that enhanced his literary analysis in unique ways. When the class discussed a short story about a working-class family's struggles with economic instability, Marcus could offer perspectives on the psychological and practical impacts of financial stress that added depth to the class's understanding of the text. His final paper on the role of work and social class in contemporary American short stories earned the highest grade in the class and was selected for presentation at the college's annual academic showcase. The statistics course presented Marcus with his most significant mathematical challenge to date, requiring him to master concepts of probability, hypothesis testing, and data analysis that were entirely new to him. Professor Jennifer Liu, who taught the course, noticed Marcus's initial struggles and recommended additional resources, including online tutorials and supplementary practice problems. Marcus discovered that the logical thinking skills he had developed in his previous math courses, combined with the analytical abilities he was honing in his literature and social science classes, actually helped him approach statistical problems more effectively than he had anticipated. More importantly, the statistics course provided Marcus with quantitative analysis skills that would prove valuable in his future psychology coursework and potential career paths. Learning to interpret research studies, understand sampling methods, and evaluate statistical evidence enhanced his ability to think critically about information he encountered in other courses and in everyday life. The course also gave him confidence in his ability to master technical subjects that had previously seemed beyond his capabilities. The biology course opened up entirely new intellectual territory for Marcus, introducing him to scientific concepts and laboratory techniques that fascinated him. Dr. Michael Rodriguez, the instructor, had designed the course to accommodate students from various academic backgrounds, providing additional support for those who hadn't taken recent science courses while still maintaining rigorous academic standards. The laboratory component of the course was particularly engaging for Marcus, who enjoyed the hands-on learning approach and the precision required for scientific experimentation. As Marcus learned about cellular biology, genetics, and human anatomy, he began to consider how this scientific knowledge might complement his growing interest in psychology. Understanding the biological basis of behavior and mental processes provided a new dimension to his thinking about human nature and personal development. Dr. Rodriguez encouraged Marcus to consider taking additional science courses and possibly pursuing a minor in biology or a related field. The Spanish course represented a completely different type of learning challenge that required Marcus to develop new cognitive skills and cultural awareness. Professor Maria Gonzalez emphasized communicative competence and cultural understanding rather than just grammatical accuracy, encouraging students to engage with Hispanic cultures and communities in meaningful ways. For Marcus, who had grown up in a diverse neighborhood but had limited exposure to other languages, Spanish class was an eye-opening experience that broadened his worldview and enhanced his communication abilities. As Marcus progressed through his third semester, he began to take on additional responsibilities and leadership opportunities that further enhanced his college experience. He was selected to serve as a peer tutor in the college's academic support center, helping other working adults with their writing assignments and study strategies. This role not only provided a small additional income, but also reinforced his own learning while developing his teaching and mentoring skills. Marcus also joined college's Phi Theta Kappa Honor Society, which recognized academic achievement among community college students while providing opportunities for service learning and leadership development. Through Phi Theta Kappa, Marcus participated in community service projects, attended academic conferences, and networked with other high-achieving students from community colleges across the region. These experiences expanded his understanding of higher education and introduced him to potential transfer opportunities and career paths he hadn't previously considered. The recognition Marcus received through his academic achievements and leadership activities began to attract attention from four-year universities seeking to recruit successful community college transfer students. Representatives from several local universities attended Marcus's academic showcase presentation and expressed interest in his potential transfer to their psychology programs. These conversations helped Marcus begin seriously planning for the next phase of his educational journey. Perhaps most significantly, Marcus's growing confidence and expanded knowledge base began to influence his performance and satisfaction in his restaurant work. His improved communication skills made him more effective at training new employees and handling customer service challenges. His understanding of psychology and human behavior helped him manage workplace conflicts and build stronger relationships with coworkers from diverse backgrounds. His developing leadership abilities led to additional responsibilities and respect from both management and fellow employees. Giuseppe Romano noticed these changes and began involving Marcus in more strategic aspects of the restaurant's operations, including menu planning, staff scheduling, and customer service improvement initiatives. While Marcus appreciated this recognition and the valuable business experience it provided, he also began to feel the tension between his current success in the restaurant industry and his long-term educational and career goals. The third semester also brought some of Marcus's most significant personal growth as he learned to navigate the complex identity of being simultaneously a college student, restaurant employee, son, and community member. Balancing these various roles required emotional maturity and self-awareness that Marcus developed through both his academic studies and his life experiences. He learned to set appropriate boundaries, manage stress more effectively, and maintain focus on his long-term goals while meeting his immediate responsibilities. Marcus's relationship with his mother continued to evolve as she witnessed his academic success and personal development. Rosa had always been proud of her son, but seeing him excel in college while maintaining his work responsibilities and contributing to their household filled her with a sense of accomplishment about her own parenting and sacrifices. She became one of Marcus's strongest advocates, attending his academic presentations and celebrating each milestone in his educational journey. The end of Marcus's third semester marked a crucial transition point in his college experience. His grades, A in honors literature, A- in statistics, B+ in biology, and B+ in Spanish, demonstrated his ability to succeed in challenging coursework across multiple academic disciplines. More importantly, his growing confidence, expanded knowledge base, and developing leadership skills prepared him for the next phase of his journey, preparing for transfer to a four-year university and making the transition from community college student to university scholar. As Marcus began his fourth semester at Cleveland Community College, he faced the exciting but daunting prospect of preparing for transfer to a four-year university. His academic advisor, Dr. Patricia Williams, helped him research transfer requirements, application deadlines, and scholarship opportunities at several regional universities with strong psychology programs. The process of preparing for transfer required Marcus to think more strategically about his remaining course selections, his long-term academic goals, and the practical considerations involved in potentially reducing his work hours to accommodate a more demanding academic schedule. Marcus's course selection for his fourth semester reflected his transfer preparation goals and his evolving academic interests. He enrolled in general chemistry, abnormal psychology, philosophy of ethics, and public speaking, a combination of courses designed to fulfill transfer requirements while exploring potential areas of specialization within psychology. This demanding schedule of 16 credit hours, combined with his continued work responsibilities at Romano's, would test his time management skills and academic abilities to their limits. The chemistry course represented Marcus's most ambitious academic challenge yet, requiring intensive laboratory work, complex mathematical calculations, and mastery of scientific concepts that built upon his previous biology coursework. Dr. Susan Park, the chemistry instructor, was known for her high expectations and rigorous standards, but she also provided exceptional support for students who demonstrated commitment to learning. Marcus approached the course with determination and humility, acknowledging that he would need to invest significant time and effort to succeed in this demanding subject. The laboratory component of the chemistry course proved to be both challenging and rewarding for Marcus. Learning to conduct precise experiments, analyze data, and write formal lab reports required attention to detail and scientific writing skills that complemented his growing abilities in other academic areas. The collaborative nature of lab work also provided opportunities to develop relationships with other serious science students, expanding his social network and exposing him to different academic and career perspectives. Abnormal psychology, taught by Dr. Martinez, built upon Marcus's foundation in introductory psychology while exploring topics that would be crucial for his potential career interests in mental health or social services. Learning about various psychological disorders, treatment approaches, and the social factors that influence mental health gave Marcus new insights into human behavior and suffering. The course also introduced him to current research in psychology and the evidence-based approaches that guide contemporary clinical practice. The case studies and theoretical frameworks presented in abnormal psychology helped Marcus understand some of the challenges faced by customers, co-workers, and community members he had encountered in his daily life. The course's emphasis on reducing stigma around mental health issues and understanding the complex interactions between biological, psychological, and social factors in mental illness aligned with Marcus's values and interests in helping others overcome adversity. Dr. Martinez recognized Marcus's potential for graduate study in psychology and began mentoring him in research skills and professional development. She invited him to assist with a research project examining the relationship between socioeconomic stress and mental health outcomes, providing him with hands-on experience in data collection, statistical analysis, and academic writing. This research experience would prove invaluable in his transfer applications and future academic pursuits. The Philosophy of Ethics course, taught by Professor Robert Chin, challenged Marcus to think systematically about moral reasoning and ethical decision-making in ways that enhanced his critical thinking abilities across all areas of his life. The course explored various ethical frameworks, utilitarianism, deontology, virtue ethics, and others, while applying these concepts to contemporary moral dilemmas in healthcare, business, politics, and personal relationships. Marcus found that his work experience in the restaurant industry provided rich material for ethical analysis, as he had encountered numerous situations involving honesty, fairness, respect, and responsibility in his interactions with customers, co-workers, and management. The philosophical frameworks he learned helped him articulate principles that had guided his behavior intuitively and gave him tools for analyzing more complex ethical situations he might face in his future career. The public speaking course addressed one of Marcus's few remaining areas of academic insecurity while providing skills that would be essential for his professional development. Professor Janet Morrison, who had taught Marcus's first English composition course, recognized his growth as a writer and thinker while helping him develop confidence and competence as an oral communicator. The course required students to deliver various types of speeches, informative, persuasive, and ceremonial, while learning about audience analysis, message organization, and delivery techniques. Marcus's first major speech, an informative presentation about the challenges faced by working students in higher education, drew upon his personal experience while demonstrating his ability to research and present complex information clearly and engagingly. His final persuasive speech, advocating for increased support services for non-traditional students, was selected as one of the semester's best presentations and was delivered to a campus-wide audience, including administrators and faculty. As Marcus progressed through his fourth semester, the transfer application process required him to articulate his academic goals, career aspirations, and personal motivations in ways that helped clarify his vision for the future. Writing personal statements for university applications forced him to reflect on his journey, from high school graduate to restaurant worker to college student, identifying the experiences and insights that had shaped his character and ambitions. The letters of recommendation provided by his professors painted a picture of Marcus as an exceptional student whose combination of intellectual ability, work ethic, and life experience